Drop everything and clear those ears. It's time for the Dave and Dave Show.
Dave Marino!
New Jersey Dave, what do you say? What do you know?
Well, it's supposed to rain here. Finally going to get
Dave,
put out these brush fryers. A little bit tired of those.
Yeah, you guys, there's supposed to be some rain in the Northeast, which could affect our handicapping. But right off the top, speaking of the top, yes, thank you for that beautiful Met hat. I love that emblem.
This was free during the playoffs. I walked into a place and they had them there. That was when we were riding high, beating up on those Phillies, and yeah, this was a freebie.
That's all right. We're going after Soto. We're going after our right field connection. I think Citi Field's going to be rocking in 2025.
I would welcome that addition to the team. Yes, I would.
Yes.
Hey, are we going to recap last week? Did I have anything good to talk about?
Well, on your side, you were lights out in the NCAA football. I know you did well in kickball. You did well in NCAA. You held your own, for anybody following Dave and Dave, I know you cashed some tickets last week if you were following Jersey Coast, Dave, North Coast, Dave.
College was good. The only one that lost was San Jose State, and they had 100 different ways they could have at least pushed that game. But they didn't. Anyway,
Boise State was on the ropes, no doubt about it.
5-0.
That's a program there, San Jose State, who really don't get a lot of publicity and not a lot of respect. But, yeah, they had that game pretty strong in the Mountain West. They've really turned their program around.
Hope they do a little bit better this week, but more on that later. Okay, kickball. No, the pick I gave out last week didn't come through. They almost did. We had the draw with Denmark and Spain, and it ended up being a 1-goal win for the Spaniards. Sometimes teams can play well and just not quite get over the hump. So they didn't get that equalizer. We lost that one. This week, we're back to club play. We're back to the real leagues. These international breaks are problematic in that it's hard to handicap because
they drive you crazy.
They break up the season, and they break up the season like they play 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden they're on another one of these breaks.
No continuity.
Like I've said before, I enjoy the Champions League play. I think it's great when the clubs play each other, Europa League and Champions League, etc. The club play is fun and interesting to see teams from different leagues playing each other. Sort of the same thing as, when they went to interleague play in baseball. It's very popular. It's a big moneymaker. The crowds are great. This international play, I saw some of these stadiums had no people in them. It's like, and too often the games don't mean anything. Like one team has already assured themselves that they're going to advance. Another team might have assured themselves that they're not going anywhere. And so those games, they lose a lot. Some of the best players don't play. They'll give them a early release to go back to their club teams, etc. That said, we're back into the kickball this weekend, and I know I always only give one play, but I'm going to fire a bunch of missiles this time. Kind of
let it rip. Let it rip.
Kind of like Russia sending the ICBMs over to Ukraine as a revolting development. Anyway, I'm looking at 3 different games in the Premier League. I believe all the games are on Saturday. First up is Arsenal is at home against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest is on a roll. They're at the top. They're not at the very top, but they're up towards the top of the Premier League right now. They're having a great season. They're sort of the overachievers of the year. Arsenal, one of the top teams every year. They're sort of off form a little bit lately. They're still a huge favorite in this game. I think Nottingham Forest, who are playing really well on the road too. They might be playing. I think they've gotten more points on the road than they have at home. Anyway, Nottingham Forest to keep it close. The draw on this game is plus 400. Okay, so it's 2-1 on the draw. Arsenal at home against Nottingham Forest. Next game is Aston Villa at home against Crystal Palace. Now, this is sort of the opposite of that first game. Both these teams are wildly off form. Crystal Palace has been having just a crummy season.
Terrible.
Period. And Aston
one win
started out well.
Games.
And Aston Villa played well in Champions League, but all of a sudden they seem to have gone off form all over the place. It's another healthy price. Villa's at home, Crystal Palace on the road, where they haven't done much of anything, but they don't have to do a lot for me here. Just play a close game, get me that tie, plus 310. So there's a method to the madness of 3 different plays here, and I'll get to that at the end. Last game is 2 teams that are both on form, both playing well, and it's Bournemouth at home against Brighton. I just think that Brighton is playing well and has shown that they're able to do some good things on the road. And again, here's another draw on this game, plus 250. So here's the scenario. Even if you get the cheapest price on the board and you win that one, you get a draw in that one game, you lose the other 2, you still make money.
Right.
Plus 250, okay? Let's say you get 2 of them. I'll just take the 2 cheapest ones, plus 250 and plus 310. Now
beautiful prices.
Serious money, okay? Yeah. The only way you lose here is if you lose all 3. You could win the cheapest one and still win money. You could draw on 2 of them and make some serious money. And if you hit all 3, it's party time. Okay, so those are my 3 plays. Arsenal and Nottingham Forest, a draw. Aston Villa and Crystal Palace, a draw. And Bournemouth and Brighton, a draw. All big prices, the cheapest of which is still a robust plus 250. That's it for
just taking a glance at Premier League. Super competitive this year. Okay, Liverpool is obviously the cream, but Nottingham Forest, Brighton, when have you seen those guys in the mix? I know you've been following this league, the past 6-7 years. When have you seen those teams in the mix? And how do you, the parity, there's no less than 9 teams that have 5 victories in the Premier League. Is there that much parity?
Yeah, there's more parity, I would say for sure, that even with Liverpool being on top and sort of clearly best right now, a lot of people still think by the end of the year it'll be Man City again. One of the things that's led to some of this parity is Man City hasn't been dominating the same way that they have for the last, few years. So, you have another team on top right now. You have Man City, still good, but not dominant. And some of these other teams, Brighton's had their moments in the last few years. They've been very super competitive. Forest is kind of interesting because at one time they were sort of bottom of the table team almost, worried about maybe being relegated. Then they became sort of solidly in the middle of the pack. And now all the way up top, looking to be, in the Champions League next year if they can finish in the top 4 here, which I think they might. This is going to be an interesting game because they catch Arsenal a little bit off form. And so if you can't do it here on the road against one of the top teams, well, maybe you're not capable of doing it. I just think this is a good spot for them. So, but
and
yeah,
anybody,
a little more balance.
Even a novice bettor, it kind of, I don't want to put my toe in the water with a tie. Even at your bottom teams, when you're talking about Crystal Palace, Ipswich, these guys have 5 ties out of 11 games. The same with the teams that you're talking about. Nottingham Forest, Brighton, 4 ties each out of 11 games. Arsenal with only 5 wins, 4 draws. Chelsea, same. So you really have to pay attention to these draws and these huge numbers that, like you said, you only have to have, 1 out of 3 winners to make some good money at plus 250, plus 310, and plus 450 for the draw.
Yeah, and another interesting thing about the draw bet in soccer is that if you have a game that's supposed to be, pretty evenly matched, your draw is usually your top payoff. You'll have maybe one team will be 170, the other 160, and the draw is 220. I was like, well, it looks like it's going to be a tight game. I'll take the best price on the board. There's been a couple of games recently where I didn't take the draw, and I regretted it because I was like, well, you figured it was going to be a close game.
Right.
So why didn't you just go with the obvious and go with the tie? And the other part of, the fact that you can end up rooting for both teams during the same game. It's like
sure,
the team gets that one,
no doubt.
And they go up 2-1.
How many times have you said, okay,
everybody?
Yeah, how many times have you
play a
told
good
me?
Game.
You've called me, hey, live bet this because the home team and the favorite, or the away team and the favorite have already scored. Now it looks good for my tie. I mean, I'm still starting to really feel your strategy, and I don't think a lot of bettors, punters that is, or all they say, pay enough attention to the draw because there's huge value there.
It is a lot of work.
Yes,
it ain't over till it's over.
Yes,
you got to go through all the extra.
And like you said to me the other day, you could get beat late on both sides.
Right.
Both sides.
So either team can beat you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have one of the sides and they have a 1-goal lead, well, only the other guys can get you.
But if you're tied in the late minutes, either team can, put their head in front and literally knock you out.
I do want to get to college football, but also we'll talk about this at a future date.
Yes, we will.
I'm not a fan of cashing out in any sport, but in soccer, it makes a lot more sense because
let's touch
a lot
upon
of stuff
that
happens in the extra time.
I was going to bring that up, but we've already talked about our a lot in kickball, and we'll bring that up next week about the value of cashing out in the late minutes in soccer. But let's jump to college football. Dave, I know you got a hot one. You were hot last week. I'm drafting. I'm right behind you. I'm drafting you. So bring us home. Who do you like?
But here's the thing. Do you have anybody on tonight?
On tonight's card, I do not.
Do you have anybody tomorrow night?
I do not.
All right, I do. So I'll go first. Okay, I'm going back to the well with the Spartans of San Jose State.
And rightly so.
They really showed me a lot of good things. Just I could go. It would be an hour just talking about that one game, about all the opportunities missed, about some of the shaky coaching decisions in that game too. But they were up 14-0 on Boise State, and they were going in for another one. They were on the 1-yard line, up 14-0.
Kick the goddamn ball.
Blew that game, but I'm willing to give them another shot against the UNLV team that I think is pretty similar to Boise State. We got San Jose State at home, getting more than a touchdown, 7.5. I'm taking San Jose State against UNLV.
Yeah, UNLV is not a very good road team unless they're playing Utah State or Oregon State. They even struggled at Hawaii, which I guess you could, kind of forgive.
Yeah, that road trip is over there.
But they're an average team. They've beaten some season. Bottom feeders. I think San Jose State. I like that playing at home. And this is their last home game. They've really turned that program around. I'm happy to say, and it's a competitive Mountain West. Besides Boise State and Colorado State, there's a huge surprise. But not only San Jose State, but Colorado State have really turned their programs around. Whereas San Diego State, Wyoming, Air Force, these are teams that are going down.
That's right. All right, who do you got?
Dave, I'm jumping up to Saturday, the Fighting Illini. We got the bottom feeders. Speaking of them, this is the battle of the bottom of the Big Ten. I'm taking Illinois. They're getting a little healthier, and they're going to be up on our Rutgers. I know you Jersey boys up there, but fortunately you can't bet on this game because you're in Jersey. And Illinois just giving a point. I know we're traveling a little bit, but I like them to beat Rutgers. They're more banged up than Illinois. Take the 1 point. Actually, give the 1 point and take the Fighting Illini against Rutgers.
I'm not going to say anything. Okay, moving on. Big Ten. Still in the Big Ten. Big game on Saturday. Indiana. They're up there in the in rarefied air for them. That's for sure.
Sure, they got a chance to beat Ohio State and Michigan.
It didn't look great against Michigan, but they got the W, which I think that's very important. They got the W against a team they can never beat. And now they're playing another team they can never beat. They've lost 29 in a row to Ohio State. Hey, they don't have to win. They're getting 13 points. I think they have a shot to be in this game. I like the way they're playing. I'd say you got two quarterbacks in this game who are kind of similar. They're not really these great running quarterbacks that you see on a lot of teams right now. They're more, almost a little bit more traditional, can run when they absolutely have to. I'll take the guy on Indiana. I mean, I just think he's a little more dynamic. He's a little bit of a gambler. I've seen him take some chances that maybe, he's lucky to get away with some things. And against the Ohio State defense, that might be a little dangerous. But I think this team is right there with Ohio State. I think this spot is way too big. I'll take Indiana plus 13 against Ohio State all day long.
Yeah. I think Ohio State's got great speed, especially their wide receivers. But Indiana has played well on the road. They went out and they thumped UCLA. Okay, not a fantastic team, but they went all the way out there and beat them up. They went into Michigan State and, trashed them. And like you said, they didn't have their best game last week, and they prevailed against Michigan.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I do want to make a point of it that in a year where, I think still a lot of people are a little suspicious of Oregon being the number one team. The Big Ten has 4 out of the top 5 teams in the country right now in the rankings. Now, not necessarily in the playoff, in the mind of the playoff, but the ranking, 4 out of the top 5. They've never had that before. Not a chance.
No.
1, 2, 4, and 5 of the country are all.
And we were just saying, not calling them frauds, but just equal. I mean, where's the line? Where do you draw this big gap between Ohio State and Indiana?
We'll see on Saturday.
Yes, we will.
I mean, maybe these guys are right, but I don't think they are. Anyway, that's a difference of.
The SEC is laughing. That's for sure.
We got to get rolling a little bit here. So
okay, I'm jumping with the Jebbies. I got BC. Take the 3 points against the Wolfpack of North Carolina. We ran into a freight train. BC did at SMU and held our own, 38-28. It was actually a lot closer than that. They played tough teams, Louisville, Virginia, Western Kentucky. Yeah, I think they prevail here. It's a game, a winnable game for them. Good coaching. Take the 3 points at home. BC over North Carolina.
All right. Moving on. I am going down to the SEC or another game where I just think this line is way too big. I'm taking Florida plus the 10 against Ole Miss. I mean, plus 10 at home? Florida's been playing really well.
Yes.
Granted, started off the season, looked like it was going to be a real long season for them. But they've really turned it around. They played some of the top teams already, very tough, and they've even beaten a couple of them. So I think that this is a competitive game. Take the 10 points all day long with Florida against Ole Miss.
They really have turned it around defensively also. That Georgia score
against Georgia, but
yeah,
this is it's just 1 week after another. SEC just playing a good team every week. So
and both of these teams are good, and they're both playing good defensively. I love the under in this game, but I also agree if you love the under, take the points. There's a rule, a handicapper's guide, but nice pick with Florida. I agree with you on that one. I'm going back to the MAC. We went 2-0 yesterday with I had Buffalo and I had Ohio U, and I'm going back Ball State at home against a really tough Bowling Green team, but I'm getting 11 at home, and we've been playing the MAC at home and we've been cashing. So take 11.
Last night it was both road teams.
Yes, that's true. That was a little caveat. Yesterday I went against it, but we have been playing the MAC at home. They have been winning for us, even though we flipped on that yesterday. But take the home dog. Ball State's playing well. 11 points. You got to beat them. I love it. I love Ball State at home taking 11.
All right. I'm up. Going back to these are my whipping boys, I guess, these days. I'm going against BYU. I'm taking Arizona State at home. I finally have a favorite. This is my first favorite of the week and my only favorite of the week. until we get to the pros. I got one over there too. But anyway, Arizona State really on a little bit of a roll. They cracked the top 25. BYU, some of the holes in the armor are showing. I think before the season started, I believe myself and a lot of other people really, if you looked at this game on the schedule, you'd say down the road, oh, Arizona State probably be favored by 10 points or so in that game. BYU's played over their head. They played great. They've had a great season, but Arizona State -3 at home against BYU. The Cinderella season for BYU takes a little bit of a hit.
Well, this is the battle for the crown. I think if Arizona wants to win the Big 12 or at least get into a playoff with Colorado, they got to win. And that victory at Kansas State last week was incredible. 10-point victory on the road. Yeah, they've really turned their season around. And I've been on BYU. I had them last week, and I've foiled. I've ridden the Mormon train there, and they've been good to me. But that's going to be a tough game, tough battle. And, I'm liking your pick. I think that's a good pick at home, the Mormons. My last game is the team that nobody's talking about anymore, and the team that's been disappointing everybody. Vandy, we're getting 7.5 against LSU. LSU's just beaten up. That coach is weak. He's throwing everybody under the bus. And Vandy is still playing strong. And I'll take a touchdown.
LSU disappointed me last
Wow.
week. So I remember I told you yesterday that I have a secondary 5 this week for college. We're only supposed to pick 4 games on college. I took 5, and I have a backup 5, and Vandy is one of the backup 5. But there's a ton of good matchups this weekend. That's why this is a fun weekend. And it's going to start to get a little sparse after this, but this is a great weekend. Still a lot of rivalries being played this weekend, even with the conference realignment, sort of ruining some of those rivalry games. But anyway, we've got a lot of stuff going on. I think every game that I kind of touched on right now, interesting matchups with good, solid teams, not really taking a stab on any crappy teams against good teams. I got one here with the biggest line of anything that I picked for my top 5, and that is a game that's going to be played in Yankee Stadium on Saturday night. I wish I could go. This would be fun to go see this game. Army +14.5 against Notre Dame. I'm just looking for Army to run, control the ball, control the clock, play enough defense to hang in there, and at least cover the number. +14.5 against Notre Dame. And then my second 5 are ready. Virginia,
throw it in there.
Kentucky, Kansas, Auburn, and Vanderbilt, who you already mentioned. Okay. I got a lot of home teams. I got a lot of home dogs. I got one favorite with Arizona State, and I just think a lot of good college football on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So you're liking Kansas against
Yeah. I thought you're going to bring that up. That I've taken somebody against my Buffaloes. No, that is a game I probably won't do anything with. My heart is clearly with the Buffs, but my head says Kansas. Kansas is a team.
It's going to be a great battle, and it's great that conference is taking hold, and they're going to be there at the Final 12. You know that there's some great talent in the Big 12. They're not getting nearly enough press and on social media, whatever, other than Dion. But those teams should be represented. It's going to be real interesting these last 2 weeks. Regarding the Big 12.
Arizona beats BYU and Kansas beats Colorado and other teams win their games. You would have 1, 2, 3, potentially 1, 2, 3, 4 teams with 2 losses. If Colorado loses and BYU loses.
And depending what Iowa State
already has 2 losses in the conference. Iowa State has 2 losses in the conference. So you'd have 4
and they could luse. They're going into Utah, which has been an incredible disappointment. I know they've had quarterback problems.
They're a little messed up.
Yeah.
They were supposed to win it. Utah was supposed to be the best team in the conference. Right now, they're second to last. How about Oklahoma State is 0-7? 0-7 in the Big 12, and that's a team that has some talent. I can't stand their coach.
Sure, they were highly touted when they, you mentioned the beginning of the season. They knew they were going to struggle a little bit, but
Central Florida was supposed to be good. They're 2-5 in the conference. 2-5. People were talking about Central Florida winning the whole thing. Arizona was supposed to be up at least near the top, 2-5, down towards the bottom. So, and Kansas, a lot of people were picking Kansas. Now, I just think that Kansas has got people back. They're playing good ball, and that's why they scare the shit out of me. I think they can beat Colorado this week.
All right, so we're getting 10 picks, and Dave's been on a roll with that NCAA grid.
That's a little bit too much carpet bombing, even for Vladimir Putin's.
I like it. This is the season, the time of the season where you're supposed to load up, where you're starting to feel good. Last 3-4 weeks of the season. All right, let's shoot over to the NFL. Dave, I know we're getting some weather tonight in Cleveland.
You got a pick?
Yeah, I got a pick. I like the under. I'm going to take these two teams that the snow and the rain. It's going to be a field goal game, and I expect them to
and that's all Pittsburgh does is kick field. They have 2 games this year where all they did was kick field goals.
Yeah, I'm sold on it. 36.5. That's my first pick. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, under.
All right. Like it. All right. My first is on Saturday. I don't know. I look at these college games and I have convictions about these picks. In the pros, I'm just kind of looking for situations. Kind of like the way Indy came back and took my Jets down last week. And looking at Detroit on the road laying more than a touchdown, I don't know. They kind of look to me to be clearly the best team in the league. Taking the Colts plus 7.5 home dog.
That's a sneaky spread. Only 7. Yeah,
Jonathan Taylor get a little bit of run the ball a little and take it home. Take it home.
On the road, on the road, suspect against the Texans.
Oh, I don't think Detroit's looked suspect against anybody. They really they've looked
good
almost every game.
The Vikings and the Texans. Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think in the end they got to stub their toe sometime, and
kind of isn't this kind of a sandwich game, a look ahead game? They had their game, high profile game on Sunday night against or whatever night that was against Houston. They were kind of lucky to get away with a win there, but a nice comeback for Detroit. And now on Thanksgiving, they got what? They got Green Bay and somebody, they got their Thanksgiving Day game. So this kind of looks like a sandwich and it's on the road. And I just feel like Indy's a little bit better than people give them credit for. I really do. So here comes Indy and they at least cover, play it close. Come on. Or maybe average.
All right. Well, there you have your first pick.
9-minute
My first pick is good. My second pick is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Not getting a lot of respect, mostly because of their past, but they're playing some good D. I love this Murray to Harrison connection, and I think the Cardinals. I think they're what are they tied in the West?
No, they're in first.
They're
in first all by themselves.
Place.
Yeah,
you are 100%. You are correct, sir. Yeah, this is, the Cardinals are on their way up and the 49ers are going down. And that's going to, there's a might vibe for my second pick, my third pick. But I'm taking the Cardinals, take the point against, really a team that I don't know how you feel about it, Dave Areno.
I can't stand Seattle.
Talk about an up and down team.
Come on.
Yeah, they're 2-4 at home. They're terrible at home, and the Cardinals are 500 on the road. So take the point against Seattle. They're up and down. This week they're going down.
And speaking of up and down, though, Arizona's been up and down. I think they might be the most up and down team in the league. More
their
ups
whole
and downs,
division.
More ups and downs.
It's like there's nobody stepping forward. And I think, Seattle goes down at home against the Cardinal team with tough D.
Took them in the office pool. I took those Cardinals. All right. Next up for me, I've been down on Minnesota the last few weeks. I'm down on them again. All right, playing the Bears. Bears lost the heartbreaker last week. That was rough. But they're at home again. Home team dog, division rival. I think Minnesota and Sam Darnold are in a slow descent into oblivion. even if they make the playoffs, they get blown out in the first round. That'll be my call right now. And maybe they don't even make it. Okay. And this is going to be one of the losses that hurts them making the playoffs. They're going to lose straight up to the Bears on Sunday.
Chicago
that plus 3.5.
That 8-2 record is really flawed, if you really look into it. And the Bears played a much, better game than the score. The Packers were so lucky and so shocked,
The Packers had two good drives. They had one at the beginning of the game, one at the end, and one at the beginning of the second half. They had two good drives. Other than that, they did very little. Bears looked good. Both sides of the ball, really. I thought the Bears looked pretty good. Just made enough mistakes. Young quarterback, young team. Made enough mistakes to lose, and a crappy kick at the end. Anyway, you're up.
I'm going with the Packers. I know we just talked about what you said. They had a good drive at the beginning, a good drive at the end, and that was it. But they're not playing in Soldier Field. They're in Lambeau. San Francisco's coming out of there looking very, very average.
Shaky.
They're 5-5, and that's where they deserve to be. 5-5. You can't live on last year and the year before. Banged up. Their, offense is really sputtering, but it's mostly their defense that's given away a victory to Seattle last week. I'll take the Pack at home. You're only given 2. They're at least a touchdown better than the Niners, and the Packers at home.
I'm gonna make you pick again because the Packers are one of my picks.
Okay, then I'll just jump over to.
I got 2.5.
The battle of the battle of the Harbaugh brothers. I'll take the West Coast Harbaugh. I think these guys are on a roll. You got to believe in these guys. He pumps these guys up, and they're home getting 2.5 against Lamar Jackson. And if you can control that beast that's a running back, Henry, okay. But you can make Lamar beat you through the air, and I think the Los Angeles, San Diego Superchargers, they will prevail. Take the 2.5.
All right. I don't have them as a pick, so I guess I'm up. Oh, and one of the reasons I was down on Detroit in their game was right, their previous game wasn't that game against Houston. Their previous game was a total shellacking last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was just
it's one of the reasons why I'm going against them, because NFL teams, when they rack up a huge number on offense and they cover by like 20 or 30 points or whatever they did, very shaky coming back the next week, and especially very shaky coming back the next week as a road favorite, which also often happens because, they're so great. They just beat another pro team by, 30 or 40 points. So they're overvalued and they lay too many points. So that's one of the reasons why I went against Detroit this week, right? It wasn't that game against Houston that they got lucky on. It was their last game. It was a total obliteration that they were involved in this week. So anyway, I'm looking at a team that had a very convincing, impressive win, who I love because they're becoming the team I have to root for this year because the Jets are so pathetic. I have to become a Broncos fan, who were my adopted team when I was going to college out there. So anyway, the Donkeys looked great last week in that game. Just kick butt from start to finish.
In on them.
Fantastic.
You are correct.
Yeah, Denver, great. So now on the road against, what used to be a huge rivalry, Raiders-Broncos.
Raiders.
Now, not so much. Taking the Raiders at home, plus 5.5 against Denver, thinking maybe a little bit of a hangover, and they're still patting themselves on the back about how great they looked last week.
Dave, you're going to have to give us your last pick because I'm all aboard with you. I got 6, and I jumped on it early. I agree. Broncos stumbled this week. They might eke out, a last-minute field goal for the victory, or maybe win by 3. But take the 6 points. I agree. Broncos do not have the continuity, and the Raiders, I don't know. Can we lose another one? They're on a slide, but take the Vegas Raiders against the Broncos. I'm with you. What's your last pick, my brother?
Last pick. So I'm 5 for 5 with home teams in the pros. I'm hoping home cooking comes through for me a little bit here. And 4 out of 5 of them are underdogs. Here's another small dog the Los Angeles Rams plus 2.5 against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Against the mighty
I'm
Eagles?
I'm not an Eagles believer.
Everybody's jumping up and down.
I haven't been doing very well on their games this year, but I like this spot. I like the Rams at home plus 2.5 against the Beagles, and the Rams are having a fairly decent season. They're kind of they're a little bit up and down themselves.
Yeah, but they play good at home.
Good up though, on the road as a favorite against the team coming off a good win, New England. I know it was only the Patriots, but hey, they beat them. They beat them.
They came back to beat them, and then they held on. Yeah, when they had to run there in the fourth quarter, they did. I like that game as well, and I think Philly is way, social media is going crazy over these guys. I think they can control Barkley, which is the key to controlling Philly.
Let's hope so. All right. So that is going to do it.
Well, you've been
any other thoughts? We got a little basketball going and stuff. We're not really talking about that yet. Early season college basketball is interesting to see especially some of the freshmen, some of the young guys, one of the new guys on certain teams. But it is still kind of an inexact science. Doesn't really get into the nitty gritty until we get into like February maybe, when the teams start to show their true colors.
What about these holiday tournaments that dominate college basketball?
Good matchups. Like there's a bunch of games going on today and tonight. Look like fun. So anyway, we'll start talking about college basketball a little bit more down the road. Well, when our pickings for college there'll be a couple weeks there where we don't have any games at all to pick from. Maybe we'll start looking at some college hoops. For those of you who are interested in the NBA, I don't really do it. I don't look at it anymore. So,
not till next year, brother. We get closer to the playoffs. We'll touch upon the NBA, but it's so volatile, and these guys don't like to play back-to-back games.
Do we have to? Right. Right. You buy tickets for your kid. The one and only time, LeBron comes to town or one of these so-called superstars comes to town, and the guy takes the night off, and you had to pay, $300 a ticket or whatever it was. To see one of these dipshits.
Give me the old days where Dave DeBuscher, playing baseball, playing basketball, and selling insurance in between.
That's right. He's playing. He's definitely playing.
Well, Daver, stay hot. You're red hot. I'm like at Billy Bob Rickey at Talladega, and I'm drafting you.